Hi again, everyone. Thanks so much for your participation in the previous module about participatory action research. It seems to me that you found the material interesting, and I really enjoyed reading your comments and thoughts about the different aspects of it. In particular, I just wanted to note a couple of things. One, I thought it was interesting that so many of you really saw potential for the use of participatory action research at the University of Anbar. And I especially noted how a few of you saw it as a way of decreasing space between faculty and students and youth, so that they could work together on research projects that are actually meant to have direct benefit on the community. I did note that several of you really saw that there were some limitations, possible limitations with the approach of PAR, and that those are things that need to be worked through. In particular, overcoming the maybe reluctance of young people in the community to engage deeply into these kinds of questions. But I do think that it's something worth pursuing and something we can talk about further. For this module, though, I really want to focus on what I call community initiatives for peace. We're reaching the stage of the project where soon we're going to be talking to some of the students from your colleges about developing projects that they can design and carry out at the University of Anbar when they return to classes in the fall. With the intention of really supporting maybe some of the infrastructures for peace that already exist, finding ways of strengthening those. So when I talk about community initiatives for peace, this is really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about projects that people can implement. In this case, students with support from faculty, but in other cases, it could be any people in the community where the project is taking place. There are a lot of questions that we need to work through before designing or carrying out a project like this, and I'd like to take the rest of the time to walk you through some of the thinking that's behind this idea. Um, Number one, we really want to know what it is that a project that's aimed at increasing peacefulness, at building peace, is really going to do. And you might remember from our time together in Erbil in April, we talked about doing connectors and dividers analysis. We actually did this together looking at possible connectors and possible dividers at the University of Anbar. Well, this would have to be a preliminary step. You'll see in the accompanying slideshow that I've put onto the module page that there's a project, a typical project cycle that always starts with I call it conflict assessment, conflict analysis. In this case, I want us to really focus on using the connectors and dividers analysis. So we're going to work with students and help them make sure that they're really thinking about how to strengthen connectors between people and to diminish the dividers. They don't have to do all of them, of course, with one project, but any given project should aim to either really strengthen a connector or more than one connector, or really diminish dividers. And in order to be able to do that, you really have to think about a project so that it falls into the category of not doing harm. You don't want to undertake a project, even if it's well-intentioned, that actually inadvertently increases the power of dividers or diminishes the strength of connectors, right? So we want to really be sure about that. Of course, for any project, you're going to want to look at making sure that it is really accessible to all of the people in the community, and making sure that that it's inclusive in terms of gender, making sure that men and women both have equal opportunities to participate in it, that different religious groups, religious actors have the opportunity to participate, maybe members of different ethnic groups, both minority and majority groups, and that if there are people with disabilities in the community, that they are also included in the project. So all of those things are very, very important when we start to think about project planning. What I wanted to do is actually talk through with you a little bit about an idea called theory of change. And what that essentially means is before undertaking any kind of a project, really understanding how that project is supposed to lead to the outcomes, the results that are intended. So, and it should really, any theory of change should really be rooted in knowledge about the world, about the community in which it's being carried out. Um, and there's really, in order to get people really thinking about a theory of change and articulating one, again, you're going to see in the slideshow that accompanies this video that I'm going to suggest a model that I call the So That model. It comes from a website, an author named Esther James, who put together that site. And essentially what she guides us in doing is thinking about, well, in each step of a project, we maybe take certain actions, and that those actions should really be intended to have certain outcomes, and then those outcomes should lead us to further changes in outcomes. So it could be very incremental. So you'll see again on this slideshow that I've provided, her example that I use is a project that teaches low-income people how to efficiently cook meals from scratch with affordable, healthy ingredients so that people will have resources to feed their families more nutritious food at home. And this is really, that happens to be a project based on increasing nutrition and allowing families to feed their families for less money and healthier ways, which of course could be a type of peace building project, but I suspect we'll be looking at some different kinds of projects. The other thing I want to briefly touch on with you is the proposal itself. If you're going to carry out a project, you really should have a written proposal, and we're going to ask for those when we get to the proposal stage with the students at the University of Anbar. And so I'm going to recommend, we can discuss a little bit further as we get deeper into the project what the proposal elements will be, but generally speaking, I would suggest that a proposal should begin by articulating a project goal. It should tell us the time and place of a project. It should include the connectors and dividers analysis, briefly, doesn't have to be very, very detailed. And then based upon that analysis, what is the theory of change? What is the project supposed to do, and how is it supposed to accomplish the desired outcomes? It should tell us who are the participants in the project. It should say what the activities will be in the project. And it should also tell us what are the indicators of success. How would you know if the project actually has succeeded? What would be observable that we would be able to point to? There should also be a small section that acknowledges what challenges the project might face. And finally, there should be a budget. I've included a slide in the slideshow about budgeting and fundraising that I hope you can review to think about what ways students will be able to design a budget for the projects that will be carried out under this larger project, how they will think about the types of materials they might need and the different maybe equipment, and how they would pay for or obtain those materials and that equipment. So lastly, I just want to, before we wrap up for today, I just wanted to remind you that how this all fits into our broader project. Of course, you're going to be in Baghdad very soon, in a few weeks, to do work with my colleagues Brad Heckman and Katerina Sira. And on one hand, we'll be working on training and ways of thinking about group facilitation with Professor Heckman, and then also working with Katerina on sort of that transition, thinking about the intergenerational conflict simulation, which will involve the 20 students who are coming to Baghdad. And so after that, after those two pieces are complete, we'll be asking students to develop proposals for these projects. There should be a total of 4 projects carried out, with about 5 students contributing to each one. And I'd like to think that we'll have at least one faculty member that will be supporting each of the students in those projects. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you're all having a good start to the summer. I know it's quite hot there now. I've been hearing about the very, very high temperatures, but I hope you're finding a way to stay relatively cool and comfortable. And please do reach out to me if you have any questions about any of this material, and I'll look forward to your comments on the discussion board. Have a great day.